Welcome to The Full Picture, where we explore complex topics from both sides. Today, we're turning our focus to the rising number of deportation cases involving El Salvador, a situation that has brought international attention and intense debate about human rights, immigration enforcement, and national security. Over the past several months, deportations to El Salvador have increased sharply, following new policies implemented by President Donald Trump's administration, which took office in January 2025. The administration's hardline approach toward immigration enforcement has reignited controversy, particularly surrounding deportations of Salvadoran nationals who had previously been granted protective status or were awaiting asylum hearings. One of the most high-profile cases is that of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland resident mistakenly deported despite having legal protection against removal due to risks he faces in El Salvador. Supporters of the Trump administration's immigration strategy argue that stricter enforcement is necessary to maintain law and order. They point to concerns over gang violence, particularly the reach of MS-13, and argue that deporting individuals with suspected or alleged gang affiliations is critical to public safety. Trump officials have emphasized the need to use existing laws, such as the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, to expedite deportations of individuals considered threats. In their view, prioritizing national security justifies tougher immigration controls, even if that means accelerating deportations without prolonged legal proceedings. Proponents also argue that by enforcing immigration laws more strictly, the administration sends a clear message that illegal immigration and visa overstays will not be tolerated. They contend that too many previous policies blurred the line between legal and illegal entry, encouraging migrants to exploit the system. Restoring strong enforcement, they claim, is essential for the credibility of the nation's borders. Additionally, some supporters believe that deportations could help El Salvador stabilize internally. They suggest that returning Salvadoran nationals could reduce dependency on U.S. systems and encourage the Salvadoran government to take more responsibility for its citizens. President Nayib Bukele, popular at home for his tough stance on crime, has welcomed deportations publicly, though he has selectively resisted U.S. demands in politically sensitive cases like that of Abrego Garcia. But critics of the current deportation wave raise serious human rights concerns. Organizations such as Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have documented conditions inside El Salvador's notorious mega-prison, the Terrorism Confinement Center, where many deportees, including Abrego Garcia, have been held. Reports from 2025 describe overcrowded cells, lack of access to legal counsel, and widespread abuses, including torture and arbitrary detention. Critics argue that deporting individuals to such environments violates international human rights obligations, particularly when deportees face credible threats of violence or persecution. Moreover, many legal experts warn that the United States is failing to uphold its own laws regarding due process. Kilmar Abrego Garcia's case illustrates these concerns. Despite a court order barring his removal, immigration authorities deported him anyway, later calling it an administrative error. Critics argue that such errors are symptomatic of a broader disregard for judicial oversight and due process protections in the rush to meet deportation quotas. The political implications are also significant. The United States Supreme Court issued an order demanding the return of Abrego Garcia, sparking a constitutional confrontation when President Bukele refused to comply, citing Salvadoran sovereignty. Legal scholars debate whether and how the United States can enforce its judicial rulings abroad, raising complex questions about the limits of international law and executive power. In addition, critics warn about the long-term effects of these policies on U.S. foreign relations. Heavy-handed deportation practices may strain ties not only with El Salvador, but also with other Latin American countries facing similar situations. Diplomats caution that a breakdown in cooperation on immigration, trade, and security could have broader regional consequences. In summary, the surge in deportations to El Salvador highlights a deep and ongoing conflict between priorities of national security, human rights, and the rule of law. Supporters of the Trump administration's approach argue that strict enforcement is necessary to protect Americans and restore the integrity of immigration laws. Critics contend that the methods being used violate basic legal protections, endanger lives, and undermine America's moral authority on the world stage. As always, the truth is more complicated than it appears at first glance. The full picture reminds us that both security and compassion are vital, and that every policy choice carries consequences that must be weighed carefully. What do you think? Do the recent deportation policies strike the right balance between national security and human rights, or are they risking too much in pursuit of control? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to The Full Picture for more balanced discussions on the most important issues shaping our world.